former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is at the table, sitting in for Joe Kernan today.
I feel good.
Is that what's really going on here?
Yeah, Joe should be worried. I'm here.
Okay, before we hit the reconciliation situation, I'm curious for your reaction to the conversation we were having earlier on the air about the plane and the Air Force One situation.
Now, I don't want you to assume I was watching you because it was early. I was probably taking a shower.
Okay, so the question is, Air Force One lands in Qatar, and there's now a question about them gifting the president and the United States, depending on whether it's gifted to the U.S. or to him, this plane. We had Ted Cruz on yesterday. He said this is a terrible idea. He thinks it's a national security threat. We had Stanley McChrystal on earlier. He said that he doesn't like the optics of it. You have some folks putting out memes calling it, Hamas Force One, and other people flying apparently planes over Mar-a-Lago calling it, Qatar Alago or whatever. What do you think?
Well, I think the biggest problem here is we've got a very old Air Force One. In Trump's first administration.
I'd say the practical problem is it would be great to have a plane.
Boeing needs to speed it. Boeing needs to speed this up. And I almost think if Boeing can't deliver the plane in time, it's Boeing's responsibility to provide him another plane until that one's done.
I agree with that.
So the government shouldn't be involved. It's Boeing's responsibility, and they're getting out of this responsibility. Now, I don't know from a technical point of view. I mean, when you sit back and you think about the pagers in Israel, anybody buying any plane, you're going to have to strip it for Air Force One and the things you have to put in it. Is there enough time? The real problem here is Boeing. I mean, the president has a legitimate argument. This is an Air Force One that was put during Reagan's time period. And the technology and everything else today, they need to solve that problem. They're so far overrun. And if they can't finish the job, they should provide him some loaner plane that has the capability.
That's a really excellent point.
That would solve the whole problem.
But then again, like the loaner plane, the part of the problem is you have to make this secure. And
well, they should have done it when they were first doing it.
They should have.
They should have been working on that, and they provide something else in the meantime. It's their responsibility. It's just like if somebody was overrunning in a building, you got to provide something else.
But how do you feel about him keeping the plane?
I think the attention now is totally wrong.
What about keeping the plane?
I don't know how he keeps the plane.
Well, the idea is that it's going to be donated to the library, and
but you just donated it to the government. Now is the government donating it to the library? I'm not a legal counsel, so I don't know how I can preview that.
The sort of structural model is supposed to be that ostensibly they looked at the way Reagan got the plane and somehow was able to. That plane was decommissioned, put inside his library, but on the ground.
Then that's totally fine. No, I'd be totally fine.
But my preference is because it's a relatively new plane. So the reason that plane was put out of commission was it was an older plane. If we're going to get a new plane, and we're also, as taxpayers, going to spend probably $50, $100 million to even retrofit this plane, why waste the money?
Look,
we should have it flying in the air.
I love all these presidential libraries, and I think, as we think in the future, when they provide something that they used, when you walk through the Reagan Library and you use that old plane walkthrough and you think about the debates they had in that place, I think that's great for the library. So if there's something that he utilizes and move it onto a library, it's fabulous.
A $400 million plane, though?
Okay, I think we're spending too much time actually on this, and this raises to the actual question that you have. You're going to miss out on all the great things he's doing if you're sitting around debating the plan.
Why don't we talk about the tax plan? Because that's of interest front and center right now.
Yeah, they're marketing it up right now.
That they put out, but will this, A, make it through the House?
Yes.
What will happen in the Senate? Will the changes that are put in the Senate make it through the House the second time?
Okay, first and foremost, this bill will get done. Will it look exactly as it is right now?
That's my assumption, too, that it gets done, but who knows?
But it's not an assumption, okay? From a person that's been in the room all the time and working these bills, it will get done because if they do not do it, they will raise the tax on everybody else. So everybody can hem and haw. But because the margins are so small, everybody's going to want their attention. So structure dictates behavior. They should have had these problems solved before you walk through. I'll give you an example. Dealing with the border is one of the most difficult ones. So when I did H.R. 2, there was a problem that I could have got a bill out of committee, but I wouldn't have got it off the floor, and it would be ugly and everybody would. So I slowed the committee down, brought everybody in the room for 2 weeks, and worked out all the problems. So once it's out of committee, you take it to the floor and vote on it. Waiting to deal with SALT now is a mistake. And the majority leader's job is to manage these committees. So we missed. Then the speaker is now just talking to him. That's not fair to the chairman of Jason Smith, right? So because 3 or 4 people can stop your whole bill. when you put everybody in the room on both sides, they know they've got to get a bill at the end of the day, and you work those problems out there instead of somebody tweeting something, somebody saying something else to get attention.
Yeah, like yesterday, there was a tweet from one of the Republicans saying, I'm a hell no on the salt tax stuff that came out of it. So what happens? Because the details really matter.
They will get salt, but salt's not going to be wiped away. Now, the problem being is if you wait and you just do a deal with the salt members, there are a lot of other states that don't have any, that are subsidizing salt to do it, right? And once you get to a certain point, when you're at 30,000, when you're at 40,000, you're taking care of 90% of the people. And you were at 10,000 before, that's a pretty good get for your constituents.
Well, with the income limits, honestly, there aren't a lot of people who are going to get 30 or 40,000. You don't have $40,000 in state and local taxes from the house that you're living in if you make $200,000.
Yeah.
So,
look, at the end of the day, but if they go to also to married, so you have 400,000. Yeah, then you're in a different place. Well, you double that. You're at
what do you think?
I mean, you're talking about a $1.5 to $1 3/4 million house to get the paybacks for that. That's even if you're at 400,000. That's
you're gonna take care of, I bet you, about 98%.
Yeah, I'm not arguing taking care of it. My point is by the way they've structured it, you're not going to have a lot of people who are taking 40,000 up to the limit of the 30,000.
No, so I don't know what you're overly arguing. I almost think some of these SALT members don't know their numbers.
Right, it's an optical.
They are fighting in their district to show they're fighting.
Exactly,
that's why you should have had the debate inside the room.
Right.
Do you think there's a chance that taxes go up on the wealthiest?
No.
You think that's off the table?
Yeah, Republicans do not raise taxes philosophically. And there is no Democrat that's going to vote for this bill. So you're going to get all the Republicans to vote to raise taxes?
What kind of deficit are we going to be left with when this is over?
You're going to have a big deficit.
And it's going to get worse, not better.
The deficit is the biggest problem we got going.
Right, but this bill is not going to address that ultimately.
No, the debt ceiling is going to provide a greater cut, what we did 2 years ago, than this will ever do. They're talking about a lower number. We did more than $2 trillion. They're arguing about work requirements. We did work requirements in welfare. We did NEPA reform. I mean, and you had all the Democrats voting for it, and you had 2/3 of the Republicans. So I don't know. They're arguing over stuff they've already voted for. They're not going further.
Can you explain my favorite topic, carried interest?
It just got voted down in Ways and Means.
Right. It's not going to be...
No, it's not going to be in the bill.
Why do you think that is?
Because, okay, this is inside baseball.
Give me the inside baseball. Tell us who is effectively influencing this, because it's a very unique...
It's not who. It's not who.
It's not who?
Everybody on the outside saying, oh, someone bought somebody else. No, you have limits. You can't take corporate money. Okay.
Okay, so what's going on?
When you're writing a bill,
yes,
and you only have like 5 people can destroy everything, you're seeing what can you put together.
Right.
But you're also, when you're doing a bill like this, you're saying a pay for, okay? What does it bring me? Because you need money. Carried interest gets you about $8 billion.
Correct.
Okay?
Right.
So it's not really helping the bill. But to get it, you're going to have 20 or 30 members who are going to go, no, you're going to be in a bigger fight, and you're going to cost you much more.
Why
so it's not a fight
why do those,
carrying.
you say 20 or 30 say no, do you think?
Because...
This goes back to whether you think somebody's got to them or not.
Okay. See, this is the wrong impression people have.
Okay.
People can have a different philosophical opinion. They could see the benefit that someone took money, and remember, we did something in carry interest in 2017.
Right.
We made you hold it longer, right?
Just to be 100% clear, this president is absolutely against carried interest. I just want to put that on the record.
Yeah,
he said
he would like to do carried interest.
Right.
He'd like to also the NFL, but when you write a bill, what are your priorities? Okay. Right. His top priorities is what he really campaigned on was no tax on tips.
Right.
That costs money, right? He also brought up salt. That costs money.
Right, but okay? If you could get even $8 billion would help pay some of that down. And if you actually wanted to help the waiters and the waitresses.
If you argued it got you $8 billion and you taxed it, you would never get $8 billion because people just wouldn't use it then. But there's also people who sit back and will be in districts to say, you know what? I couldn't get anybody to invest, but that investment be able to spur and grow something else because you extend it out for 3 years. So they view it as a big benefit. So just because somebody believes that it's benefit doesn't mean somebody paid them any money. That's what people get wrong.
Do they understand how it works or no?
Look, members of Congress know about this much about everything.
No, the reason I ask is I oftentimes feel we have
Sounds like a news
people
anchor.
in Congress come here, and when you explain to them the benefit is not to the investor, it's not the person who actually has the money.
It's the person.
It's the person managing the money.
Yeah.
So we're effectively incentivizing the manager of the money to do their job.
Yeah, but
And we've
at
decided
at the
that
end
that's
of
a
the day,
special-
but the member is sitting there and saying, somebody invested in my district that brought me jobs. I don't know who got the greater part of the return on that.
Yeah.
All I know is I didn't get an investment in my district that built that factory that saved that company. That's the job of the member. So they're not sitting back and saying what was fair on the payout. That's not really what's going to drive them. It's whether they have jobs in their district and whether somebody invested in it. And is that wrong? No. And it's wrong for someone to think, oh, well, they're bought off. No, they're not. They're bought off by their constituents that they want to get them jobs. And these are the only people they're paying attention because, you know what? In some of these small districts, no one else pays attention to them. And they're not getting investments.
Thank you. That was actually, no, I'm very glad that you had that conversation with us just now, because I think it actually...
I am too. I'm always thankful to be on here and be in Joe's chair.
Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.